Okay, so we did a video telling you all about typography. I've done a video showing you how to do bubble and block letters if that's something you're interested in. So the next one we're going to do is we're going to review how to do more complicated letters. So if that's something you want to create, here's a way for you to do that. So what we're going to start with is if you have just your basic handwriting, writing really neatly, of course, but your basic handwriting, I could pick a word, and I'm going to stick with the word art like we were doing before. And I can take just basic letters that I would write anyhow, and I can take these and turn them in to a style with typography. So I could add things to the ends of them, I could add things to the sides of them, I could add a flourish to it somewhere. One thing that I've seen done that's been very popular is if you add an extra little accent to one side. So for each of these vertical pieces, I'm going to add a little bar next to it. And you've taken your basic everyday handwriting and added a little something extra to it. I can also add some texture or design to those pieces, like these little stripes, and just embellish it that much more to make it a little bit more creative. All right, so another one that you could do if you were looking for something a little bit different is if you do a script or something like cursive. So I could do letters that are a little more flowy. So there's my A, and they just kind of flow back into each other is what you're wanting it to look like. So I could have an R, and just lots of curls and flourishes to kind of make it look more creative. And my T. Now you can even take those a little bit further by adding some depth to it. So instead of leaving them skinny, if you add a little thickness to them in parts, like this, your letters now have this extra little oomph. They look a little bit nicer. Just be consistent in where you add that thickness, where you add that depth, to where it looks like it was done on purpose. Now this will take your script and push it up a little bit and make it look more like calligraphy, which can be very beautiful. And you might really like how the end results are. If you don't, you can always leave them like that. Either option is fine with me. If you want to take, let's say, block letters and add a little more to it, graffiti style letters are really interesting. So before I showed you that if you take a pencil and you write your letters, that you can then trace around them and add to it to get your style. What if you don't just trace really simply? What if every time you trace it, instead of adding just a straight line across it, what if I added a box? Or what if I added a point? By adding a little bit of extra to it, you can give more of that graffiti style or that tag style letters to what you've been doing, and you can get a really nice effect, still doing the same skills we learned with basic block letters. So again, I can add that point because I really like how that point looks. And I can flatten some of those curved pieces to where they really look boxy. So it's still block letters, but it has a little something extra to it, so it looks more interesting. Has a little more work added to it. You can also, instead of tracing it straight across, you can slant them. To give your letter a little bit more movement, a little more interest. Now from there, I can add whatever I want to these letters. Some people like adding a pattern or a stripe to them. So I can take a stripe and make it go all the way across all of my letters, and it gives them some unity, makes them look like they belong together. And it can be a nice little detail. And I could color that in, or again, add value, texture to it to make it a little more interesting to look at. And you have something different. You can also, if you're interested in it, add some thickness to one side, and it'll create the illusion of depth. So it'll make it look 3D. So if I pick just one side, and I'm going to pick the left side of everything. So if on just the left side of everything, I add a little line, with something thicker like a marker, maybe a Sharpie, it will look 3D. So you can get a really nice effect with doing very little work. I think I need it right there too. So there are 3 styles of a little bit more advanced lettering for you, so you can try those to create your typography design.